Hi, I'm Freya Levy. I'm an international athlete and I've been diagnosed with FSH muscular dystrophy since 2010. So I'm a full-time wheelchair user and it's a progressive, incurable muscle wasting condition. Yeah, when I was first diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, I was 14 years old. So I always credit the timing to be perfect because at 14 years old, everybody's body's changing and everybody's bodies are in chaos. So I always feel quite grateful for that. And I always say that it's the greatest blessing because, again, to be so young, to be taught don't take anything for granted, was just such a privilege to get that lesson so young. It enabled me to go out and just don't say no to any opportunity and just go and do everything. But initially it was a challenging time, you know, with a progressive disability, you just don't really know where it's going to go, how quick it's going to go or anything like that. So you have to just continuously be alert and be prepared. And I've heard it been described as a constant grieving process because as your muscles waste away, you're kind of always grieving for that old you or that old muscle you had yesterday or the day before. So it's definitely a challenge, but like I say, you have to just be a bit vocal and vulnerable to get the help you need or the support you need. And asking for help can be so tough, but when you surround yourself with the right people, you know, it's not that hard. I've represented Great Britain and England in 4 sports, wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby sevens, wheelchair rugby league and para ice hockey. And for me, sport was life. You know, sport enabled me to continue my life as normal as possible as I did before I was diagnosed. So I grew up in rugby clubs, I grew up with my brothers on sports fields, and to be able to continue that even with a disability for me was really freeing, and for me it meant that nothing would change in my life. You know, I could keep on the same track, and my childhood dream was to play rugby for England, and I'd never imagined doing that in both codes. So that was a dream come true for sure. So living with my condition and the challenges I face, especially around bladder health, is I guess knowledge and understanding. You know, it's very difficult to get that understanding without being incredibly vulnerable and having to be so open to your friends or to people, work colleagues, people you've just met, to be like, these are my struggles and this is happening. But you know, everybody pees. I think we should break the stigma and we should be able to be open to talk about those things. But it can definitely be a challenge to, you know, step over that threshold and say, this is what I'm up against and I need X, Y, Z support. Luckily, I've been connected with Clinical Supplies for a long time, so a lot of their information and newsletters come through. There's not a huge amount of support through the healthcare system, so it's really important when brands like Clinical Supplies come through with support and help through social media and email and just to have that contact to go to if you have any questions. So where I would go first if I was day one struggling, obviously straight to the GP, straight to the medical professionals. They'll be able to help and support you. But I was really grateful and I've been very lucky to have such great companies and support networks in my network to ask that help. And I just think you should kind of go out and find them. You know, Muscular Dystrophy UK were fantastic when I was first diagnosed, to have great services and support and, you know, networks of people you can talk to. And it's the same with Clinical Supplies. You know, they're out there with days like this to get people with lived experience to share their experiences is so key and so important, because people should know they're not alone. People should know there's support out there and people should know that there's companies that care.